What is going on, everybody? Today I have a very special video for you, the first guide of many to come for my man Happy Chaos. In this first guide, we're going to be talking about neutral game plan and strategy. Let's get into it. First, let's start with our overall neutral game plan. Our primary goal is going to be to create space with ID backjs, backdashes, 236k, and curses. Once we're at a far range, we're safe to throw out curses and lock down the opponent. If we land curse, we can opt to take a turn with bullet into button and begin our offense. Or we can just continue to zone. If they don't land, we just zone until they do, or until the opponent runs at us. At a mid-range, when our opponent runs at us, be ready to counterpoke. Clone makes this a lot easier to do. Our best pokes are 5k, 6s, 2s, and our best and only anti-air is 6p. If we counter hit, then we get to do a lot of damage, and if we get a regular hit, we can curse, and from here you can choose to either aggress or zone and build resources. Now let's get into our actual strategies. I categorize these strategies by distances from our opponent. Let's begin with the far range. Our far range game plan is quite simple. We want to be gathering resources, and then landing a curse for a free run-in, or to enforce zoning. Attempt to keep them away, but always be ready to stop an engagement with a 6s or a 6p. So if you're at full screen and you're in need of resources, you actually have some non-committal options. First of all, you can just reload at any time. It's walk cancelable, meaning that at any point if you need one bullet, you just use it and walk cancel it. This is very fast and non-committal from full screen. There's no way to be punished from it. You will always be able to block. Next, it's not the same for concentration. If you have no concentration, you're kind of forced to just let it fill manually unless you want to use your 236k. But doing it raw can work out sometimes, but it is a major risk, as your opponent can, on reaction, just run forward and throw out a button. If you want a safer way to build resources, including concentration, the way to do it is with 236k. Whenever you throw it out, you can run into it, and the properties of this are the opponent cannot run through it whatsoever. And if they try to throw out a button, even if you're standing in front of it, you will not be hit. This is a very safe place for you to be, meaning you can dash cancel and get your concentration right away, and then reload. It is important that you do it in that order, because concentration you cannot cancel out of at any point in time, but the reloading, you can react to the button. So let's say I go 236k, concentrate, and then reload. I'm still able to punish as he attacks. Be very wary of how your opponent interacts with the clone and be ready to punish or take a turn accordingly. When we're at far range and we do have resources, our game plan is a lot more degenerate. We're going to be wanting to go for a curse into a 214H. This way we can accommodate for jumps in that they're going to get hit, and if they don't jump, they're actually going to have to eat the curse. So let's go over what to do in each of these situations after you pull out your 214S. First, if they jump, they get locked down and you get guaranteed full resources, meaning you can go into 214p into 22p and you can loop the situation. Reload everything, and then they're right back where they started and they're cursed. So in the air, it doesn't matter whether they get hit or if they block, but on the ground it's different. If they get hit, yes, you still get full resources and put them in the exact same situation. But if they're blocked, you kind of have to look at the distance at which they blocked it. If they block it far, you can pick one resource and then get ready for the same situation. But if they block it closer, you have to play more passive. Do not go for concentration ever. Instead, the play is going to be to, let's say we do it from here. The play is going to be reload, backdash, and then curse. And then we can pick the same situation if they don't approach us. Last thing I want to say is that if your opponent is running towards you, don't panic. Take your time, line up the shot, get your hit and all of your resources. And same position. And last thing I want to say in this section is that if you do have full resources and they are cursed, consider moving in on the attack. It's much easier to play rushdown than it is to properly manage resources while zoning. Next, we'll talk about our game plan at the mid to close range. Generally, we want to be keeping our opponents afraid of 6S. Back off to get your resources or curse off, as we saw before, try to make that space. And if you do have resources, you can always try to use a clone to give yourself an advantage in the brawl. First, let's talk about things that we're going to be doing regardless of whether or not we have resources. First is IAD backJS to play keep away. If they engage, you often hit them and convert, and if they don't engage, you can backdash again and make some space for the previous game plans. Next, we're going to be talking about the importance of 6S, and first we're going to be showing off the new defensive OS that I came up with. So we can actually go 6S into 236P into 214S, and on hit, you're guaranteed to curse them, as I just showed, and on counter hit, you will pull out your accurate weapon, and we'll show why this is important in just a minute. So let's go over what to do in these individual 6S scenarios. First of all, if our 6S hits and we get them cursed, we immediately have them full screen, and what we do next depends on our resources. If we do have resources, we can go directly into our 214S game plan that we saw earlier, and if we don't have resources, we can get them. If 6S into curse is blocked, backdash and play reactively. On counter hit, you can convert into a big combo or simply use the time to build resources if you don't have any. Additionally, if we want to play aggressively with 6S, we can actually just go straight into 236H regardless of what happens. So if they block it, we can reset pressure, and if they get hit, we can convert with a bullet. Generally, you should always be using the defensive OS when you have no resources or when you want to zone, and you should be using the 236H after 6S when you have resources and when you want to aggress. When you're in need of resources and you're at that close to mid-range, you should try to attempt to backdash and then 236K and get to your faraway game plan. If they chase correctly, we may be punished for doing this, but there's very, very high reward in that if we get it out, we can get our resources back, and we can fight alongside our 236K if they try to poke us. In the case that your opponent is constantly challenging clone and preventing you from getting resources, you can counter this by simply going to a curse and getting your faraway game plan started. In the case that you do have resources and you're at this mid to close range, you can go from backdash directly into curse. This isn't as risky as doing clone because it's much faster, but of course you don't get the clone shield in front of you. In the case that you do go for this, don't go for 214S right away, because if they approach, you're not going to be able to react in time, you're going to get counter hit for it. Instead, you should watch to see if they do approach. In the case that your opponent does approach, be ready to 6S and then do the defensive OS that we were talking about earlier. In the case that your opponent didn't follow you up, then you can start your faraway game plan again. And that's all I've got. If you learned something and want to learn more about Happy Chaos in the future, make sure to hit that subscribe button and like the video. Also consider checking out my Twitter, Twitch, and community Discord. More Happy Chaos content to come. If you're interested in learning Goldlewis, Nagoriyuki, or Jacko, I also have guides for those characters on the channel. Thank you for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.